Hi, welcome to D-ConneXion TV. I'm Donzale Powell with D-Connex LLC, and today we're going to be discussing software applications and technology for business. Now, I got with me today Aireka Harvell with Nodat. So I'm going to allow her to go ahead and introduce herself to you.
Hi, I'm Aireka Harvell with Nodat Inc. Nashville native, single mom of four, 10 years in loyalty and retention, and advocate for Black entrepreneurship in tech.
Okay, so you said mom of four. Very interesting. Just kind of give me what are those age ranges? I'm curious.
Well, I have a grown man now.
Ooh.
He turned 18 last year.
Mhm.
17-year-old daughter, 15-year-old daughter, and a 12-year-old son.
Okay, so you're making it happen.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
they're my
deal.
little team.
Good. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Now, I work with a lot of businesses, especially some of them are small to mid-sized businesses. And a lot of times what I've recognized is there is a struggle for those business owners to really be aware of technology or to implement strategies using technology, or even just figuring out, okay, how am I going to fund being able to do these applications or implement these strategies that I have in my head, but how do I pay for them and things like that. So I'm just curious from you, give me a little perspective on how you view technology, and then also any suggestions for a business that's similar to how I just described that might help them move forward and being able to be successful.
Sure. What you just described is almost every small business in America, especially like seeing them after COVID and watching them struggle to share, the news of whether their hours have changed or their menus have changed to their audience. A lot of them had to close because they lost connection to their audience because they didn't have a digital presence. And we found in conversations with them that some of them had social media, but they hadn't used it in years and couldn't figure out the password to get back in it. A lot of them didn't have websites. And so during COVID, we actually pivoted to a platform that would help bridge the gap between enterprise-like marketing solutions and the real life needs of small local businesses. And so we do that by focusing on the three main things that every business needs, which is acquisition, which is attracting customers, retention, which is retaining those customers and helping small businesses create sustainable repeat revenue, and then promotion, turning the small business customer into a marketer for them. Because we know word of mouth has always, been the most powerful form of marketing for small businesses. Our idea was, how do we put more power behind that word of mouth to help the small business grow in their local area? And so our goal was to make sure that we did this within the budget and the know-how of small business owners. You talked about, not being able to afford these elaborate digital strategies,
Right.
not understanding how to execute them like Google AdWords. We have a whole team, and we were chatting with Google yesterday till like midnight.
Wow.
So like even having professionals not understand that complicated platform is even more intimidating for small businesses. So our goal is to make sure that we build a solution that does all of that heavy lifting for the small business on the back end, but delivers the same results that it delivers for enterprise companies.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes. So you mentioned pivot, and I know that is a huge buzzword right now. But I love it because even, for instance, of course, we're dealing with the pandemic right now. So things had to kind of change. But even before that, I still saw the need for technology even then. I think this just heightened it.
Yeah.
And I have several friends that own businesses, and I was able to see firsthand how it went from people were coming inside the door versus now I need them to order online, but I'm not set up to have that. And that pressure and that stress that kind of comes with, oh my goodness, now I need to do something completely new in order to make some revenue.
Yeah.
And so it's really been a struggle. So I appreciate you talking on some of the things that they need to focus on in order to make that happen. And I also agree wholeheartedly with the word of mouth. I think the more that they're able, and I see it a lot now, more people when they purchase either an item or get a service, they're more likely now, from what I've seen, to either take a picture of it, put it out there, say, I got this from here, or I really loved this food that I got, or I like this product. And I really love that. It's almost like a supportive, like you said, supportive community, instead of it just being you get it and then no one else knows about it. So love that. So tell me a little bit more about Know That. Can you describe kind of your evolution that's happened, over the years?
Yes. So I'll start with the name and how we got the name.
Yes, please.
In 2016, my son, who was 14 at the time, he came running into my room and he said, "Mom, did you know there was a new water park here?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know about it." I was like, "How did you find out about it?" And he said, "My friends are teasing me on Snapchat because it's the last day of summer and we can't go." And so I started calling my friends and asking them, I was like, "Hey, did you know there was a new water park in Murfreesboro?" And no one knew about it except for one person. And I asked her, "Why didn't you post anything on social media? You know, that's where everybody gets their information from." And so I was thinking to myself that someone needs to build an app that rewards locals to share what they know locally instead of just when they're mad. Because like most time when people write a review or share something, they're mad at the business. So I started thinking, like, what are ways that we can encourage locals to share this information to help small businesses out? And I said, they need to call it Know That. And my son said, "Why don't you build it?" And so I started working on it in 2017, hired my first development company out of India. We flew to India and worked with them and actually launched from India in July of 2017.
Amazing.
Thank you. And so we grew a lot of traction. Our first feature was actually video reviews, and that's what we focused on, kind of like the TikTok of video reviews. We were a little early because that's when TikTok was first coming out, and people were just getting used to seeing themselves on video. And even though we gained a lot of traction with that, talking to the small businesses who are on our platform, they saw it as something just, really cool. It's like it wasn't really solving their problem, it was solving ours. And so having more conversations with them, that's when we found out that their problem was that they couldn't retain the customers they were attracting. They were using platforms like Yelp, Groupon, Living Social, and they were just, putting a lot of money behind these acquisition offers, but they were not seeing a return. And what these platforms was creating was deal hopping customers. And so we wanted to help small businesses focus more on loyalty. And so we started building in the point system where we awarded customers with VIP offers for sharing video reviews.
Awesome. So tell me, what have been some of the kind of pros and cons that you've dealt with as far as, starting your business compared to where you're at now? What are some of the things that you're like, man, this was a win, or hey, yeah, this was a little challenging?
Oh man, there's so much. I'll start with the challenges and then I'll end with some of the wins. One of our biggest challenges was changing behavior, and it still really is, because the businesses and the users, they think Facebook, they think Instagram, right? Even Twitter kind of struggles with getting people to come to their platform. And here we are, this new company out of Nashville, not out of Silicon Valley, like most of these companies are developed in. And then you have a Black woman who is the head of the company, and changing those behaviors and making people see the value that we provide. Aside from the fact that we're small, we're from the South, and it's headed by a Black woman, that's a real challenge that we face, and we've learned a lot from that. Also, fundraising has been a very big challenge. We have bootstrapped the company up until last year when we got our first investor, with our first two investors, which was a huge win for us, because we were always told that we were not going to make it because you're a Black woman, you're from the South, and no one's going to support you. I was actually told to quit because of that. And getting those investors and closing, a small round of $35,000 in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, man, that was a huge win for us. And it also gave us validation that what we were, building was actually needed, that someone believed in us in the middle of a pandemic to invest in us and help us continue to build.
Wow, yes. So obviously, you definitely showed determination through that because I'm sure that that can be challenging.
Yes.
But I think it's very important for everyone to be able to see different types of people that
Hmm.
are able to do different things. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean anything about less quality or any of that.
Right.
It's like, no, we're gonna provide the service. It's just a matter of I'm doing it versus you. I might
Yes.
not look like you, but you're
Right.
still able to
Yeah.
get something amazing. So
Hmm.
I definitely appreciate you kind of sticking that out. So tell me a little bit more about you. I've been seeing that you've been recognized for several awards and been on several different shows and things like that. So just tell me a little bit about that and what are some of the things that you've been kind of highlighted for here recently?
So last year I was 40 under 40,
Oh.
which was a complete surprise. I didn't even, they told me I was nominated and I just filled out,
Hmm.
the questionnaire that they sent. And I was just truthful in that questionnaire. And I was in the middle of a meeting at the National Entrepreneur Center when I got the email. And I yelled out in the email, I was like, shut the front door, like really, really loud. And everybody was like, what? And I was like, I won 40 under 40. It was a huge moment for me. We won the pitch competition for Beta Boom Accelerator, which were from a venture capital academy out of Utah with two founders from Silicon Valley. So our company won first place in that.
Awesome.
We've had, man, so many. I was nominated for Women Who Rock Nashville, Nashville Women of Influence by the Nashville Business Journal, um, Black Tech Startup to Watch by TP Insight. So I mean, it's been a lot. And what's so funny is it's hard for me to remember it all because I don't put weight on
Hmm.
a lot of that
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
And I feel like for me, the day that I will actually like just be happy is the day that I see local communities thriving because of the solution that we built, helping small businesses thrive. And then I
Right.
say, okay, I deserve that. I did that. But yeah, right now it's just fun.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So, how have you been able to kind of become more and more innovative? I'm sure that you've over the course of the years that you've started, you have to kind of refresh,
Mhm.
or you kind of, like you said, kind of have to pivot in. So, what are the ways that kind of either you've had to be innovative or kind of navigate a little differently, especially just using the pandemic as an example?
Well, we are a small team. When the pandemic started, it was just myself and my co-founder,
Hmm.
and so we had to do almost everything in the company by ourselves. And so we were very innovative with that, with shifting from meeting at the Entrepreneur Center to work to shifting to online. And at that time, our head of tech was a contractor out of India. And so we had to kind of bring him onto the Zoom meetings with us during the day and adjust our schedules with that. Um, just being innovative with like being a mom and having kids. And when they went to school online, my 12-year-old, I would have to have him sitting right next to me while I'm in a meeting to make sure that I can, that he's in class and that he understands. And that was a whole debacle the when that first started. So thinking outside of the box as a single mother and a non-technical founder, because when I first started, I didn't know anything about coding.
Hmm.
And then I started taking classes for that, consistently doing customer interviews and talking to customers so that we know what they really want and quickly making those fast ads um, to our applications. So.
Good, good, good. So you chose to get into obviously applications, technology in that area. Were you able to connect with many people at first? And how is that compared to now?
No,
No.
no. When I first started, I went to SCORE
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
asked them. They again, because the South, this isn't what the South does, and they didn't know what to do with me, but they wanted to help me, so
Hmm.
they sent me to the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, and they were kind of in the same boat, but they were like, "We're going to figure this out," and so they started introducing me with advisors there,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then I got into the in-flight program, the accelerator there, went through that, created Twin Day with Shawnee Jackson Dow, which is a accelerator for founders of color. And we used that to connect with more investors from out of Silicon Valley. From there, I went to Founder Gym, which is an accelerator in Silicon Valley, and then to Beta Boom. And so just had to kind of work my way, kind of had to build my own network of investors who are not in Nashville, who are in California. And then when the pandemic happened, because everything went virtual, it became easier. Yeah.
Okay. No, that makes complete sense. It really sounds to me like, number one, you're definitely a trailblazer, which is one of those things where, again, the more that people are able to see, oh, I don't have to do the standard, 5 employment options that I see on TV.
Right.
It's more than just a lawyer, a doctor, a firefighter, a police.
Right.
There's more than those 5. Because
Yes.
I think sometimes if that's all that you're aware of, you have no idea there's so many other ways that you can either be employed or start your own business. And I think this generation, this younger generation, is starting to venture out much more than probably ours has. But it's great to kind of see, and for them to be able to see, hey, yeah, I can do it, and really use their brain to think, okay, so what if no one else has done it? I can do it.
Yes, exactly. I didn't know much about entrepreneurship. Like, we didn't talk about entrepreneurship in our house. And what's so funny is, like, my dad was a pastor, and I helped him with a lot of the operations of the church and paying the church bills and doing the books. But I never looked at it like that was entrepreneurship.
Right.
When I was married to my children's father, we had a barbershop. Yet still in my head, I never thought like, hey, we're entrepreneurs. It's because we never talked about that word, wasn't used, growing up.
Right. Similar. When I grew up, we didn't have that entrepreneurial talk. It was get you a good job, stay there, retire from there. That was what, that's what you need to do. But from their standpoint, in their time, that was relevant.
Yes.
It was in those times, that was one of the best ways for a lot of people, not everyone. Some people were still entrepreneurs back then, but for someone to make a nice living, to be able to live comfortably, that was one of the main options for you to be able to do that, and at least be able to leave something, some type of legacy to go on. And now, when they see me, and I'm just like, no, I'm doing this, I'm gonna do that, and I just like, because that whole shift over time, like, no, I can still make it. I don't have to do that cookie cutter. It might work for some, and that's great if it does, but that, everyone has to kind of make those decisions for themselves in order to live your life, and how do you want to go about it. So I want to stick back to real quick. I also appreciate that you were kind of doing what I would consider a continued education. So like you said, when you started, you didn't necessarily have all the skills, but you said you identified, hey, I want to be better. I want to make sure that I'm knowledgeable when I'm talking to these people. And I think that's another important step.
Yes.
So let's say there's a small business that provides widgets, but they want to make sure, hey, I want to build my brand. I want to get this out there. I want to be on the Amazons of the world. I want to do all of these things. What courses are they looking at? How can I expand my reach? Are there different methods that I use? So I really love that you included some of that continued education. So you kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I know that you mentioned that you're a mom of 4. So what made you as determined as you were to kind of seek entrepreneurship? And then also looking back, would you make any changes?
Honestly, I would not make any changes, only because of the growth.
Okay.
My personal growth and my spiritual growth. Well, let me say, I would do it all over again, but I would make sure that I have a mentor in the beginning. And that's the main thing that I, recommend for any entrepreneurs, to make sure that they have a mentor when they first start. But one of the main reasons that I'm able to keep going, and even though this is like one of the hardest things that I've ever did in my life, and I have gone through some stuff. Like, I had cancer when I was 18. And so it's because of them. It's because when I first started the company, I worked for AT&T, and I'd been there for 10 years. I was making $100,000 a year. I had just built a 5-bedroom home from the ground up for my children, which is what I promised them. And I prayed and I asked God if it was time for me to leave. And I was up for a promotion at that time.
Mhm.
And I said, if it's time for me to leave and work on this company full time, let me go in. Let my director tell me that he decided not to give me the promotion. So I get there the next day. He taps me on the shoulder and he says, let me talk to you in the office. I go in the office. He says, I decided not to give you the promotion. And the prayer went like right out of my head. I forgot that I had prayed that. I was upset. And then when I got back to my desk, I remembered the prayer and I put my 2 weeks notice in. Well, all of my coworkers and my employees were sending me messages saying, don't do it. You're just upset. You have children to think of. It's not your turn to dream. And my mom, she was like, don't do it. You just built that 5-bedroom house. And I took it back. I stayed for another 3 months. And then I prayed again. And I told God, I was like, you're not the author of confusion. I know that you told me to leave the first time. By the end of this week, I would know for sure if I'm supposed to leave. And that Wednesday, my accountant called a meeting. And he said, you can't be working for somebody else while your target customers are open. He's like, you've got to get out there and start getting businesses subscribed to the platform. And at that time, we had an investor said, I'll give you $40,000 to leave your job and work on the company full time. And so that was my sign. I went back to work and I put my notice in and I left. But because I gave up that, I owe it to my children to give them better than what I left. And so every obstacle that comes in my way, I make sure that if I have to vent about it, I vent about it. I may have to take a day, cry and do whatever, but then the next day I got to get up and keep moving because I took that one thing and promised them that I was going to give them better. And that's what I'm going to do.
Great, great, great. Yes, that is a great story. Especially, I think sometimes we get a little unsure of ourselves at times. So I completely can sympathize with the I'm not sure moments, but then you have to kind of regroup, you refocus, you kind of renew yourself, and then you're back at it the next day. So that's great. Can you explain to us what are your projections as far as the applications sophistication, kind of where do you foresee it in the future, especially right now? Of course, we're dealing with the pandemic, but even aside from that, where do you kind of see technology continuing to go?
The technology of Nodad or technology period?
Just technology period, just in general.
Well, I'm very familiar with marketing tech. And I see marketing technology is going to be more AI based. Right. You're talking and also virtual reality. I believe that consumers are going to have a marketing ID that is going to be basically assigned to them, and they're going to be able to create and build this ID that they can pop into their TVs, their phones, their car, and it says, "This is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. Show me these type of ads." That's where I see marketing going, and it's something that we're building in to make sure that we're using the data that consumers allow us to and trust us to collect, and that we're using that data to help small businesses market to their customers at the right time and market to the right customers and send them the right offers so that they're not spamming people and they're getting the most out of their marketing spend. And so that's where I see marketing technology.
Well, I know right now, so if I take my phone right now and type in that I'm looking to buy a potted plant, and then when I go back, let's say I go from Facebook to Yahoo, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing all of these different plants that pop up in the ads.
Yeah.
Basically letting me know, well, here are the ones that you can select, and here's how much it is. Just click on it.
But that feels like an invasion of privacy.
It's a little much.
Yes.
It's a little much. It's like, okay, I just looked.
Yeah.
It can be. So what are your thoughts on how aggressive do you think that's going to continue to be? Because I know that there's major players and they want their things in front of you.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I think, well, right now, Apple is pulling back. Facebook is fighting Apple right now because Apple is saying you can no longer follow our customers journey. If they leave your platform, they leave your platform. And
Mm.
Apple is ticked off about that right now. So a lot of these bigger players, uh, they are breaking down on that to make sure that their users feel comfortable on their platforms. And what we want to do is make sure that the users trust us enough to say, hey, you can tell them that I wake up at 6 a.m. and take a walk if they, in case they want to sell me running shoes, right? And so empowering the customer to say, market this to me, sell this to me, instead of guarding their privacy and just spamming them with everything.
Right.
And I see Apple so far is the only platform that it's taking that type of approach.
Great. So before we wrap up, I definitely want to give you an opportunity. If there's anything that you feel like, hey, the general public just might need to know this, or any suggestions for business or businesses that are learning and trying to develop, anything like that that you want to share and just make sure that people know that you got coming?
That we have company.
Mm-hmm.
So we just did a event called Beyond Big Social, where our push right now is helping small businesses make sure that they think about marketing beyond social media, and that's display advertising, content marketing. And so right now we're building a resource library that's completely free for small businesses to go and get this content and learn how to market beyond social media. We are partners with Renew Nashville at the National Entrepreneur Center. And so right now, small businesses can go and sign up and get free access to resources, marketing videos, anything that they need. And so I would suggest that they, connect with the National Entrepreneur Center and the Renew Nashville program.
Okay, so yes, I think resources are very important. I am familiar with the Entrepreneur Center. Now, Renew Nashville. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Renew Nashville is the Entrepreneur Center's COVID response program.
Okay, it's a program.
Yeah.
Any others that you can think of? Because typically, from what I've seen, the Entrepreneur Center is a little bit more geared towards technology. So let's say we have mom and pop, we have a restaurant or something that isn't as tech related. Do you happen to know any resources that might help someone like that?
I know the Nashville Incubation Center.
Yes.
I also know that they're wanting to, gear a little bit towards tech as well for Black entrepreneurs. But the Nashville Incubation Center is a great one. Also the SCORE program. I'm a SCORE mentor, and I teach a elevator pitch class every month, once a month on the third Thursday of every month. But definitely connecting with SCORE and getting a mentor and taking those free workshops I definitely recommend that.
Okay, good. Yes, I'm very familiar with the Nashville Business Incubation Center as well. I know they have a couple of different programs depending on the level that someone wants to do. Well, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today and giving us a little bit of an idea of the information technology world and some of the applications. It's good to hear something different and refreshing, something that I think is very relevant to today and what people need. So I just want to thank you all for watching today, D-ConneXion TV, and we will catch you next time.